Well, I'm so thankful that the Lord continues to deal with my heart and occasionally just give me these little thoughts that help me dig in the Word and draw nigh to Him and learn and grow. And I hope that I can share this thought with you in a way that'll be effective and will help you. I had this thought the other day about that the devil will never show us the good. He will only show us the bad. And the example I would use for that is just say church. Like, he's never going to show you how much the pastor and his wife fast and pray for you. He's never going to show you that saint across the aisle that is burdened for you and prays for you faithfully. He's not going to show you the ones that are concerned, that care, that love you so much. He's going to show you the ones that maybe aren't so concerned, maybe the ones that push you away or don't include you or shun you. The devil knows what buttons to push. He knows what bothers us. So whatever it is in that area, he's going to use what he can. And to me, he is just like the epitome of what Scripture talks about whenever, Jesus said, so many things he hates. And he said one thing he hates is someone that sows discord among the brethren. And that's exactly what the enemy does. And he does it because where there is unity, there is strength. So if he can break up the unity, he can tear down and discourage. So that is no doubt his purpose. But there are some things that we can do, and some scriptures I found. I just want to share them with you. One thing we can do is we need to recognize him for what he is. John 8:44, Jesus declares that Satan is the father of all lies and has been from the very beginning. So he is the father of all lies. And if he's planting things in your mind, then it's going to be a lie. Anything he says is not going to be the truth. And another thing is, I was reading in John 10:10, and this verse came to my mind, and it says that the thief cometh but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. And I started thinking about that. What does he come to steal? Okay, in this situation, I would say he's come to steal our joy and our peace by putting things in our mind that take our thoughts away from God. And then by doing that, he kills our spiritual life if we let that thing grow, if we don't handle it, which will in the end result in utter destruction if we do not have it handled. And when I was thinking about this, I thought about where it's in Hebrews chapter 12. It talks about that root of bitterness springing up. Because if you've ever had a situation like this, where you've had something on your mind, like the devil's put a thought in your mind, and maybe you feel like somebody's got something against you, if you let that stay there, it's going to create a root of bitterness. And so that's what I thought about, was that root of bitterness. And so I pulled it up, or I looked it up in my Bible. It's Hebrews chapter 12, verses 14 and 15. And it says, "Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see God." And I noticed that follow peace, and I looked up the word follow because it just kind of jumped out at me. And in the original language, I think it was, I can't remember, maybe Greek, but anyways, in the original language, it means to pursue. So pursue peace. Try to be a person that's a peacemaker. Do your part to make sure there's peace. And then it goes on to say, looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Now notice that. Looking diligently. That means that this is going to be something that we have to be very, very proactive about. As soon as it comes up, handle it. Don't let it continue on. And I notice it says here, when the root of bitterness springs up, it says trouble you. When you have bitterness in you, whenever that root of bitterness springs up, it does trouble you. Troubles your mind. And then it goes on to say, and thereby many be defiled. If you ever notice somebody that is bitter, they do not keep it to themselves. It can be something that happened 25 years ago, and they are still holding on to it. They still know the details, and they still tell people. That needs to be handled. But there is a way that you can get past that, okay? In Ephesians 4:31, he says, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice." So put it away. And well, it's not really been that recent, but about a year ago, I had a situation where I felt like there was something between me and another person. It bothered me so bad, about drove me crazy. And I finally talked to a mentor, a really good friend, so a good Christian woman, a good mentor, and I told her, and it was just the devil is all it was. It was just the devil. And so she told me something that really helped me, and I just want to share it with you. It was about a cockatrice. Now, I don't know if you've ever even heard of a cockatrice. I had not. And I believe there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about a cockatrice, but I have not pulled it up. She said that this man preached a message about the cockatrice and how he will lay eggs in your mind. And we sit on those little thoughts and we allow them to grow into these ugly, horrific little creatures in our mind. It's because, he plants the little seed. The devil plants the little seed in our mind. And we sit on that thought. And we just, incubate it until it hatches. And when it hatches, this is a cockatrice. Can you see that? That is horrible. I do not want that in my mind, in my thoughts. I don't want that, anything like that. And that really helped me a lot. And I made up my mind that I was not going to allow the devil to lay cockatrice eggs in my mind. And so every time that would happen, every time one of those thoughts would come, I would just be like, devil, you're a liar. This is just one of those cockatrice eggs. Just naming it for what it was. This is what it is, and I'm just not accepting it. And I actually ended up, after a while, I just got sick of dealing with it. And so I did what the Bible says to do. I went to the person. I called him, and I said, I just feel like there's something between me and you, something to this effect. Anyways, I feel like there's something between me and you, and if I've done something to offend you, I apologize. I couldn't think of anything, but still, when I got off the phone, there was peace and closure, and, you can move on. And so I feel like that's important. And as I've been thinking about this, something else came to my mind. I was thinking about the enemy and the way he works in our mind, but this little thought came to my mind. It was a scripture, and it says, but we're not ignorant of his devices. And so I looked it up, and it ended up being even better than I expected. At the top of the page, it gives the solution to this problem. And it says, Paul urges forgiveness. It's in 2 Corinthians chapter 2. And that's what this chapter is about. Paul urges forgiveness. And if you go to verse 11, listen to this. He says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So if we allow this, we're letting him get an advantage on us. If we let this thing grow and we don't forgive whatever the wrong, whether it was intentional or not, some things are just mistakes. Some things just, you weren't there when everybody else got invited, or it's just a mishap. It's just one of those things. It was not intentional. And I know there are probably some situations where people were intentionally, snubbed or whatever. But this is what, I remember I told a friend a while back, there was some stuff going on, and I said, I wish that I could just learn to, and honestly, I'd try to work on it, but I wish I could just learn to, as soon as somebody says something offensive to me, as soon as they do something, to just immediately forgive, just to make it a habit to say, you know what, I'm just not going to let that take hold in my heart. I'm going to immediately forgive, and I'm going to move on. Because, if we let this grow in our hearts, it's not going to end well. And it talks about, going back to Hebrews chapter 12, where he talks about, about bitterness defiling not only you, but others. Really, that's how it is. Whenever someone is bitter, they don't keep it to themselves. They spread it. And so it is so important for us to recognize the enemy and name it for what it is. This is a lie from the devil. Okay, this person may or may not have intentionally left me out or offended me or whatever. But either way, I choose to forgive. I will not let a root of bitterness take hold in my heart. That is so important, and I know if we will do our part, the Lord will help us. I know the Lord has helped me. I wish I'd had this thought 9 months ago or however long it was that I was battling this. But I didn't. But I do now, and I'm so thankful that the Lord gave me the thought. And I tell you, I thought, this is something that I need to just store away in my heart and just hold on to it. And when the enemy does come, just say, no, devil, you know what? I recognize you for what you are. You don't have my best intention, or my best, yeah, you don't have any good intentions for me. Your intention is to destroy me, to tear me down, to discourage me, and to put a wedge between me and someone else so that I cannot focus on spiritual things like I need to be, and on, pushing forward in services and in church, or in, community, whatever. But we need to recognize it for what it is, name it, and do not let that root of bitterness take hold in our heart.